My guest today is a new friend, one of those people whom you immediately just connect with and feel like you've known forever. Her name is Francesca Wetzel, founder of Francesca's Paints, one of the first eco-friendly paint companies in the UK. Francesca is well known for creating the most beautiful, one of a kind colors and putting together gorgeous whole home color palettes. She's based in London, but Francesca is Italian, as you'll hear. She has the most beautiful Italian accent, at least to my English speaking ears. This episode is for all of you design enthusiasts who like to know how things are made. We begin by talking about the ingredients Francesca uses to make paint, the inspiration that's led to the multicolor palettes that you can use throughout a single project, and then we look at some of the homes that have featured her colors. Let's get started. Francesca, welcome to Slow Style Home. You and I had the pleasure, I'll say that you had the pleasure, I know I had the pleasure of meeting in France and spending some time together. And you're just such a delightful person. I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. It's very mutual. It was a joy to meet you, and thank you for asking me to do this podcast with you. And gosh, we did have a good giggle together, didn't we? It was fun.
We had many giggles. So I want to try to understand today lots of things about color. I want to start with how you make your paints. I mean, most of us have no idea how paint is made. It's sitting in a can on a shelf. We don't know how that happens. So can
Yeah.
we just start there? Can you kind of give us start to finish, pick one of your favorite colors from your library, or I'll pick one. I'm going to pick Piggy's Piggy Pink.
Well, this is actually is a 30 years old color. Is one of the first colors I ever made when I started.
Wow.
And the person that made me want to become a colorist is actually a Mexican architect called Luis Barragan.
Oh,
And Barragan was famous because of his shocking pink,
yeah.
oranges, purple, and yellow. But
Oh,
you have to imagine these colors with the Mexican light. So absolutely perfect. And because the light is so strong, you can use very strong colors because they just look much muted because of the so much light, right?
hmm.
Light and colors, they are part of the same journey.
Okay.
When I did this Peachy Piggy Pink, I also made it in the lime wash, which is the oldest form of paint, which is made with lime and water, and it has a lovely texture. And I really wanted to recreate the Barragan look of
Right.
this Mexican architect.
Let me just
And
interrupt for 1 second and say that so Francesca makes a lime wash paint and an acrylic paint, and we're going to talk a little bit later about the differences. But for now, as you tell us how you create a can of paint, let's just keep it on the lime wash.
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
well, the lime wash, it's really the oldest form of paint known to man. And the lime is a little bit caustic when you activate it with water, but it's a completely natural, traditional paint. And once you have your base, then you add the pigments. With this shocking pink is actually just made with two pigments, which is magenta and organic red, in enormous quantities. It's a wonderful color, but it's a very expensive color to make
Ah,
because it's so deep that you have to put this enormous amount of pigments to
okay.
then let it dry for what it is.
Okay. So
Well, yeah.
we've got our two pigments. We need a lot of them because this is such an intense color.
Yeah, super
So
intense.
you're adding that. You've already got the lime and the water, did you say?
Yes,
And
yes,
so
and
that
a
so it's already
little bit,
liquid.
yeah, a little bit of linseed oil to keep
Linseed
it as a
oil.
binder,
Ah,
and that's it. And then you just brush it on. And the beautiful thing about the lime wash is that it's a paint that gives you an effect, but
mm.
the effect is not created by the man who applies it, but it's created by the paint itself because it has all to do with the carbonation of the lime And so it dries like velvet in a very mottled finish. For me, the colors that the lime wash gives you is completely different than any other paint because it's so velvety. It has a texture that no other modern paint really has. And
Right.
it's
And
natural. It's just completely natural.
I want to talk about that in one second, but my interaction with it is that this is the kind of paint that I have seen all over Italy and France
Absolutely.
on the plaster walls, and it almost has movement to it. There's a gravitas to it. There's an age to it. There's a depth to it that you're right. The acrylic paint's just much more flat.
Yeah. Well, the color can be a little aggressive if you like. If you have that color in an acrylic base, it's still a wonderful color, but it's very in your face.
Okay.
Instead, the lime wash, because it's textured and it's like velvet,
Yeah.
it has this, movement that is very easy on the eye.
So tell us a little bit about these pigments. Where do they come from? And we were talking earlier about minerals and tell us what it is.
Well, the pigment, first of all, there are organic pigments and inorganic pigments. The inorganic pigment are mineral based.
So
And
inorganic doesn't mean synthetic. That's different. Inorganic has
yes,
to do with the state of what? Solubility or it's a
exactly. No, exactly. The inorganic pigment is the mineral pigment. This kind of pigment that I'm talking about are actually in the first cave painting, they were done using this mineral.
okay.
And then if you put it in the oven, is the same pigment, but the color changes because it's cooked. And
Okay.
so there is raw amber,
I
which
was
is
just going to say that. This reminds me of a painting class I took where we had raw umber and we had burnt sienna.
exactly. A raw
Okay.
amber
Yeah.
is the pigment raw as it is. The burnt amber or burnt sienna is the pigment being put in an oven.
Ah,
Siena, the city of Siena, has been painted with burnt sienna. The burnt, like terracotta
yeah.
in Italians, means cooked earth.
Oh. So I've been to Siena and the entire town is this beautiful, rich
Brown.
color
It's
that,
wonderful.
that looks amazing in the light.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
amazing.
whole city is like this.
Yeah, you're not allowed to paint anything else. You can only paint in that color.
That's so Europe. I love it because they care about the history and the culture and they want to preserve it and they don't want
Yeah,
something
no,
coming
but
in.
the interesting thing about Italy, actually, that in Italy, you can only paint the external of the houses, like
Mhm.
Siena or Florence or Rome. You can only use the pigments of the region.
Got it.
So, like, for instance, I come from Milano, and the pigment of the region is yellow ochre. So you cannot, you cannot go to Siena and paint a house in yellow ochre because they would tell you, sorry, it's just not right. You
Oh
cannot do
my
it.
gosh.
Which
This
is
is so slow style because I I just love honoring the place, the sense of place of
absolutely,
anywhere, and including apparently what the minerals we take from the earth to create our colors
absolutely,
are of that
absolutely,
place. And it's just
absolutely.
so beautiful.
Yeah, it is wonderful. It is actually really wonderful. And it is to very much respect the land, the style of the homes. And,
Yeah.
it is really wonderful,
Yeah.
actually.
We've talked about the aesthetic value of lime wash. Let's talk about the health benefits, both to ourselves and the planet, of using lime wash.
As you know, before paint used to contain lead,
Yes.
very bad to breathe.
Yes.
Or, to make certain colors with natural pigments, they would use arsenic, the,
Ah,
the, the
arsenic,
poison,
like we say
arsenic,
here.
sorry.
Yeah. That's
Sorry.
okay. That's okay.
And about 12 years ago, 15 years ago, there was the first law of paint. There was eliminating the volatile organic compounds of paint, which is called VOC. It's basically the paint when it dries is at its most dangerous and is when is releasing these volatile organic compounds, right?
Yes.
And so there was a law, and basically you have to stay within a certain number of grams of these volatile organic compounds. My paints have always been ecological because the lime wash hasn't got any volatile compound because it's just from lime and water.
Wow.
And I started in 1996 and I was a little bit ahead of time. People were not so fussy about being ecological.
Or worried about our health and what we're breathing.
Yeah, it
Yeah, people
wasn't
aren't
there. It
thinking
wasn't
about.
there, yeah,
Yeah.
really. You see, a paint like the lime wash and my other emulsion that is called eco emulsion are paint that they don't have any plastic and so they allow the wall to breathe. And you
Mm.
tell me, why does the wall have to breathe? Well, that is so important because if the wall doesn't breathe, it doesn't allow the passage of moisture, and so then it starts bubbling up. And so the lime wash, for instance, it's wonderful in a cellar where there is a lot of condensation, in a bathroom. Like a lot of people in this country, in England, they love to put eggshell
Yeah.
on the wall, which might be really practical because you can wash it. Normally, after 5 to 6 months, you just start getting bubbles,
So
which
I have
is
to just say, I don't, when we first talked about this and the whole washing of walls thing, I'm trying to think, I don't think I've ever washed a wall in my life.
me
Who's
too.
washing walls? I guess if you have little kids and maybe they have little some fingerprints on the lower part of a wall, I suppose, but that would not stop me from using lime wash because of all of these other benefits that you're talking about. I mean, aesthetically alone.
And
We talk on the show a lot about the idea of taking care of things. And
yeah,
when you buy things that are made mass produced, and maybe they didn't even cost that much, you don't feel that need to take care of things. Whereas you buy something that's handcrafted or that's made with raw materials, you do have to take care of it. But to me, that is one of the joys of having a home, is that
well,
you have to slow down and take care.
absolutely. And I have a client who's an antique dealer,
Okay.
and she was telling me that once she tried the lime wash, it was like applying something that she could feel that it was handmade and it was drying in a way that it looked like if it's been there for a while. And
Right.
even though it's completely new and lovely, it's like there was this texture, this absorbency of the light, this depth
Mm.
that really you cannot achieve with these modern acrylic or vinyl paints because the light absorbs into the lime wash, and
Mm.
instead in a vinyl or acrylic base, the light reflects. So
Hmm.
it's a completely different look that you're
Okay.
going for.
So I just want to clarify the reasons to get lime wash are aesthetic. If you are working with a raw plaster, then applying the lime wash will make it breathable.
Yeah,
And then there's no off gassing, so that your
absolutely.
indoor air quality is good. And even though it's not going to be breathable if you're covering previously painted walls with it, but that's not a reason not to do it. There's still all those other reasons. So even though it may not be breathable, it's still going to at least keep new mold from growing, right?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And is also antibacterial.
So it, like you said, it's great in a bathroom.
Yeah, yeah, it's fantastic. It's because there is this highly alkaline content in the lime
Okay.
that create this anti-mold and antibacteria kind
Interesting.
of
Okay.
factor.
Okay. So I find all of this really fascinating, but I want to make sure that we also have time to really look at your colors. First of all, I want to talk about your color palettes because people often have trouble or they're nervous, I guess, about mixing colors together. So one thing you've done is you've created many, many palettes
Yeah,
where you could just use that one palette and everything's going to work
absolutely.
together. But
Yes,
let's look at a few of them. Okay, so this one is called the Himalayas.
yes,
And
yes.
tell us a little bit about
This
what,
the where the inspiration comes from.
yes.
I just turned 51 and I went to the Himalayas and I did a yoga course on breathing.
Okay.
And we were in this beautiful, beautiful place next to the Ganges River.
Mhm.
We were really high up, around about like 3,000 and something meters. And
Okay.
all of a sudden, in the middle of this brown green scenery, there was this temple that was painted in this pink.
Wow.
And it was just like divine.
Right.
And then, you know, obviously, if you go in India, you have to have a lot of turmeric because that is something that you put in your food and they use it for everything. I mean, turmeric, funnily enough, before being used for food, it used to be a dye to put for in clothing. But then they needed so much of it that then they thought, oh, it tastes good. Let's start eating it instead. That's my very stupid theory. And then we were in these mountains, and there were monkeys everywhere.
Yep.
And it was quite incredible. So, you know, like I thought, let's have a color called monkey tail. And then we used to do a lot of yoga at night.
Hmm.
And the sky was just like, oh, it was amazing. There was this mountain in front of us, and one night the moon just came out, and it
Hmm.
was full moon, and it was just like, you know, one of these spiritual experience that you have that you just go, wow, it's just so then I had to have a starless night color. The celebration of the colors, the taste, the nature of India, which I am incredibly fond of. I've been there 15 times. I just I feel alive. I think I must have been an Indian person in my previous life because I really feel completely at home. And
Well, and I also want to point out that another slow style aspect of what you do is these colors, they all have meaning to you. They remind you of something. And then when we hear the story, and then we get to be reminded of it, but they're also coming from feelings that you had. So this is a very spiritual palette. And I would say that if you just look at Starless Night, which is a black color, and
Rudranath Temple.
which is this bright, rich pink color. If we just had those two together, that would produce one sort of feeling. But because she's put all these other colors into this palette, that's what kind of calms it down. At least it does for me. That's how I
Absolutely,
would see
absolutely. Except from the Path to Ganga and the Himalaya salt, which are the lightest colors,
it. Hmm.
all the other colors have pretty much the same proportion of pigments. So they all are of the same strength. Because
Yes,
I feel
yes.
that when you create something, it has to flow.
Let's look at Houghton Hall because now this is completely different. This is a historic structure in England.
Houghton Hall is located in Norfolk and it was built for Robert Walpole, which was the first prime minister in England.
Okay.
And the primary architect was called Colin Campbell. But then what is really interesting, that William Kent
Mm,
was called to become the interior designer and look after the gardens.
okay.
Actually, I did this collection with Meave Watts. I still have the fabric that they were from the archive of Houghton Hall, chosen by William Kent. We're talking
Oh,
about 1770, something like this.
oh my God.
And so we just came up with these 8 colors. My bedroom is painted in the ice house blue. I sleep so well in that
Right,
color and I will never change it again. It's
right,
just perfect.
right.
And what is beautiful about these colors that you can, because they absorb the light so much, you can actually see all the pigments throughout the day. But you know, it's really like touching history. I mean,
Oh,
they are amazing. They are amazing. It's so well balanced and it's so elegant. And
That's the great word for it, elegant.
it's very elegant, and I had a lot of fun in doing this. I felt very honored because Houghton Hall is really a masterpiece of Palladian architecture. And William Kent is a genius, was a
Yeah,
genius.
yeah, right. Walking in his footsteps.
And being allowed to do something so beautiful, I enjoyed enormously, and I feel that with this fabric that I was given, I've been able to create something that just works really well. I love it. It's a
I
great
love
collection.
it too. And in fact, the three palettes that I chose are three of my favorite palettes as well. Let's go to the last one, Poison to Medicine. I would love to hear the backstory on this one, but these
Oh,
colors too, I just love them together.
poison into medicine is actually a Buddhist term, and it means that from something negative, you can create something really positive.
Oh,
And I did this collection with a wonderful artist called Dilwyn Smith. And Dilwyn had a lot of traumas in his life, and he really used art as a solace, just to feel better and to be able to express himself. We decided to make a collection together.
okay.
And as an inspiration, we decided to go to the National Gallery, but we didn't say to each other where we would meet. And we found ourselves sitting in front of the Nativity by Piero della Francesca. And
Mm.
it was just a total. I love this painting. When I go to the National Gallery, I always go there and sit because for me it's almost a visual meditation. And so then we decided to make this collection based on the Nativity. And
Ah,
in fact, all the names of the colors have Parto means nativity, then there is the adoration rose, and then there is the calm illumination. And
mm.
it's again a palette that you can really use this throughout a house. And I think that like this energetic yellow and Piero's purple, they are not so obvious. Their colors, they can look a little gray, a little blue, a little brown, and that's what I consider a color to be sophisticated and intelligent.
So I'm curious, what kinds of questions and what are you looking at or looking for when you do a color consultation?
First of all, what you want to achieve, what you want to do with colors, how you want to use them, and also very much respect the property, to read the property and see what the property tells you. I mean, not all colors are transferable. So, like, I went to the Caribbean, I wanted to make the Caribbean collection. I was there, I was thinking, oh, can you imagine all this emerald green, turquoise, aquamarine, how wonderful. Then you come to London, there is a gray light. They look horrible. They look
Yeah,
really, they look cold, they look out of
right.
place. But you can make that kind of color, you just have to dress it up with the right pigments. In London, you really need colors, but you have to make the colors that suit the place. So,
Right.
you have to you have to dirty them up, so
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have to,
yeah,
a
yeah.
color that is very pure, you add some of these ambers, raw amber, burnt amber, and you immediately create something that just goes. That all
So
of a
one of the
sudden,
things you're saying that you would do is you look at their color preferences and you say, okay, but let's keep that feeling and that general color, but let's make it work in the light that you have in this home, in this.
absolutely. To respect very much the lives
Mm.
of this character who lives it and want to be feel very safe and protected and comfortable in their own places. And it becomes so personal, it
Well,
becomes.
let's look at some of these houses that you've done.
This is wonderful. It was a fantastic project. This guy is a connoisseur of colors and a connoisseur of paint. He bought a house and then it took him 7 years to paint it.
Wow.
And he really studied very much what he wanted to do. When we talk about slow decor, it's
Yeah,
always
yeah.
very slow. And,
So very slow
uh,
decor. I love it. I love it. Because
And
like when he
he
was
was
studying, he was
reading
trying to feel like, what is the light like and what is my mood in here?
absolutely. And then if he wanted to have the most pure and natural look that he could achieve. So
Okay,
he loved the lime washes and he loved all the eco emulsions, and it was just very much a celebration.
right. Let's go to this one. So this is in Hollingbourne.
The client, she just wanted to use the lime wash. She didn't want to use any other paint.
Hmm.
And she asked me to make this gray for her.
It's
And
beautiful.
again, it's wonderful, but if you look at this wall, you can see that the color is not uniform. There is
Yeah.
a fantastic texture, and the
Yep.
texture has been created by the paint itself. So you just paint it on, and then the paint just right, so patchy and so lovely. And she she has a great understanding of colors. This green is
Yeah.
divine, is
Yeah.
just divine, and it is such a property that it has been featured on many magazines and many places because it's just been so cleverly done. I
Mm.
was very flattered by her understanding of what she wanted to achieve it and
Right.
how she achieved it, how she made it look fantastic.
Yes, 100%. All right, this is our last one, and this is in London. And I chose these particular projects of yours because I love all of the colors. They're all quite different.
I went to the Outer Hebrides because around about 4 years ago, because I had to digitize my formulas and I had to go somewhere very quiet where I could really concentrate because I had to input in the software all the formula for my paints.
Ah,
And I went to this island, the island of Barra, of Scotland,
okay.
and then I made a collection that is called the Postcard from Barra. And we
Yes,
actually
yes,
won an award for this collection. And it's a really, again, all the colors are exactly of the same strength and they
okay.
all talk to each other. And this house was only painted with the color from the Postcard from Barra collection.
Okay, so here we have it. Francesca is showing us I mean, look at those shades. Okay, I'm going to go back to the house where you use these colors and then tell us about it
Uh,
as we look at the house.
well, yes, the color on the left in the bedroom is called Thrift.
Mm.
And thrift is one of these lovely flowers that they
Ah,
grow on the beach,
ah,
and they're all pinkish
yeah.
and the most beautiful pink that you can imagine.
Mm.
And is made with burnt amber, a little bit of yellow ochre, and a touch of organic red, but really, really little.
Mm.
And it just reminds me of these beautiful flowers on this
Yeah.
sandy beach. It's a sophisticated, elegant color. I'm
Just
sorry if
like the
I...
one on the right is also sophisticated and elegant.
Oh, well, that was, I don't know, some people pronounce it lichen or lichen,
Lichen is how I would say it.
the thing that you see on the rocks when they
Hmm.
kind of, and they were all yellow against this beautiful rock color, dark gray, and is just such an inviting and warm, and it looks wonderful against wood. It looks
Ah,
wonderful as a art for art, like a
yes,
black and white picture just look fantastic
it
against that,
does.
that
It
color.
does.
It just, and
And
the
then
one
this is our last look at this house.
yes, and this is sea kale. There was so much light in this
Right.
property that this color changes so much between day and night.
Yeah.
Because at night it becomes super cozy because it's dark, and instead here it looks quite gray and pale, but
Mm.
it's so. I love this color. We have created something very calm and very tranquil that just flows beautifully.
I want to say that in America anyway, we're coming out of a maybe 10-year period of everybody wanting everything to be serene, spa-like, comfortable. And unfortunately, I believe that has been interpreted as everything is bland. neutral, white, beige, and your ideas of calm and serene or comforting, there's a huge range of color there. It's not just neutrals. And I just want people to kind of absorb that because I think we need to expand our understanding of what makes us feel calm and enclosed or enveloped or whatever. It's not just one color.
But there is a great psychology behind each color that we choose and how they make us feel. You know, like I talk a lot about pink because pink is a color that reassures me and makes me feel calm, but also I think he has a lovely sense of humor. He makes me smile. He
Yeah.
makes me be a little bit childish. And I feel the color like pink, there is no bubble gummy kind of color, can actually become a neutral. Like green is a fantastic color. During COVID, it became everybody has a greenhouse.
Mm.
And now it becomes boring because we have used all the same tone and
Mm.
we seen it too much. I think that when you see too much of everything, then even if it's still absolutely wonderful, because the color itself, it's wonderful,
Right.
but it's just that we just use too much of it. And thanks to Instagram, now we just want to have the house like that person. So we are
Right.
all copying each other, which I mean, don't get me wrong, Instagram for certain thing is absolutely fantastic, but
Sure.
is also a little bit of a lack of personality. When things become trendy, they can actually become quite dangerous
Mm.
because then they can also become a little bit nauseous because we see too much of it.
Well,
And so
that is the premise of my entire book is it's about you and your home and how you make decisions about the colors that you're going to put on your walls, but also on your furniture and everything else. If it's coming from you, what you love, and the life experiences you've had, and what you want to remember, and what you want to kind of replicate or do more of from some fabulous experiences that you've had, or maybe your dreams, maybe it's whatever you're looking forward to bringing into your life. When you choose colors based on that, I don't think you get tired of it because it automatically will not look like anyone else's.
exactly, exactly, is to be able to create something that is unique to who you are. If you believe in yourself and you trust, you let yourself go, it's like, and it might be something that you would not choose, but if that person is happy, that
Right.
for me is all it counts,
That's
really. It
right.
is, I really, if you ask me for an opinion, I tell you,
Hmm.
but don't treasure my opinion.
Yeah.
You know what I
No, that
mean?
I
Because
tell that the same thing to people all the time. I'm not ever gonna I never use the words right and wrong ever.
I remember when we were in France, I was telling about this designer who said, "Oh, whatever you do, don't use orange." For me, that is almost a fascist affirmation. It's like, why?
Right. Right.
It's why not using orange is, I personally love orange, so I never understood that. But even if you don't like it, is I could never say to somebody,
No,
don't use orange,
you're right.
because if you
Well, it's
like
funny
it,
because they're confusing fact with opinion there. It's not a rule, a design rule, never use orange. It's one person's opinion. And for whatever
exactly.
reason, they have a very strong reaction to it. And
Exactly. That
then
is
you're
a
back to the
fantastic
psychology.
point. Is
Yeah.
not a rule, is an opinion. And unfortunately, again, thanks to social media, we becoming very opinionated.
Oh, Francesca, this has been so personally satisfying because I just adore you. But thank you so much for sharing all of this knowledge with us today.
Oh, thank
Your
you. Thank
insight
you.